Good morning, friends. This is our first in a series of remote Sunday school lessons, and I know it'll feel a little different, but I'm hoping that you can have Sunday school together with your family and read the Bible stories together and think about them together and maybe play some of the games and do some of the activities together so that we can continue to explore the story of Noah and the ark, which we started looking at a couple weeks ago. As I've been going through this week, this story keeps coming back to me. And the part that I really wanted to share with you today is about how Noah obeyed what God said to him. So much has happened in this last week that has felt a little strange, and we might have asked, why do we have to do that? Why do we have to stay home? Why? And all of it was to keep us safe, right? Just like God asked Noah to build the ark to keep the animals and Noah and his family safe. But when people saw Noah building the ark, they thought, what? There's no rain in the sky. What are you talking about? And it felt very strange. And so the idea of having to obey, even when you don't fully understand, has really been on my heart this week. So today we're going to look at the story of Noah through that idea of listening to God and doing what God asks us to do, even when we don't understand it, okay? I want to start by reading you a book, and I'm going to try and hold the camera so you can see the book, and you'll hear me but not see me, okay? Okay, our book today is a version of Noah and the Ark, written by Jeremiah Gamble, and it's called Hold the Boat. You can see it there. And I'm going to try and turn the pages so you can see the pictures. Hold the Boat by Jeremiah Gamble. The sunshine shone across this land. It was always sunny, always grand. The forecasters had an easy job. Not a cloud in the sky, they'd say with a nod. But somebody recently ruffled their feathers when he said we were in for a big change of weather. The man's name was Noah, and he built a great ark. It's a boat that's real big and it's made out of bark. But everyone here said he was cuckoo and crazy, said he was loony and loco, but certainly not lazy. He was a hard worker, there wasn't a doubt. It was his mind everyone was worried about. He said it was going to rain. What's rain, they all said. Please explain. It's water that falls from way up in the sky. Way up in the sky? There's no water that high. But yes, there is, he replied, and what's more important, it's coming back down, and it's coming in torrents. So listen, you people, women and fellas, it's too late for you to invent some umbrellas. It's going to rain water, and it's going to rain hard, and a flood's going to wash you right out of your yard. Boo, hiss, and rubbish, they all replied. The forecast looks sunny, the weatherman cried. So Noah spun around and returned to his work, and the people all laughed at this man and his ark. I wanted to say something, but couldn't. I wanted to tell those who were laughing they shouldn't. For I started to believe that the sky might just rain, and I really didn't want to get washed up and away. So I set out determined to get on his boat, 'cause rather than drown, I prefer to be afloat. I didn't tell anyone I was somewhat afraid of what they might think and what they might say. So I went off alone to find my way there, and I brought along sunscreen and some swimming wear. If the boat was too crowded, I'd have to dog paddle. Something I learned from my dog, Fiddle Faddle. Just all the more reason to ask good old Noah and get on his ship, and off we would go. But there was just one small problem I forgot to explain. Only 2 animals were allowed, 2 of every name. 2 squirrels, 2 rabbits, maybe 2 donkeys, 2 lions, 2 tigers, 2 yellow striped bees, but no people on board except Noah and his kin. for they had pleased God and repented of sin. Everyone else who lived on this land was selfish and mean and so out of hand that God was sending rain to wash more than their chins. He was sending a great flood to start over again. So getting on the ark would be kind of a trick, and I came up with a plan and I thought of it quick. I walked up to a porcupine and I saw all its bristles, so I went to the woods and I picked out some thistles. I stuck them on my body and they looked pretty good, but they hurt just as badly as you're thinking they would. I went up to a giraffe and I measured its height. I was 6 inches shorter. Well, okay, not quite. I behaved like a monkey and I ate a banana. I've been told I have fleas and long hair like my grandpa, but I've never been good at swinging from trees. It's the falling I'm scared of. The climbing's a breeze. I attached a big stick to my head like a horn, and I pranced and I neighed like a small unicorn. But I never saw any. They never did show. I guess they got lost. I really don't know. I slithered like a snake, and I stuck out my tongue. But I couldn't shed my skin. It stayed where it belonged. I jumped like a cricket, but the singing was a chore. My legs didn't make a sound, and they got really sore. My friends called me chicken because I was always afraid, and I still had my chicken suit from the play in first grade. So I put a dozen eggs in the pockets of my pants, and I sat to keep them warm away from the ants. But the eggs didn't last long. They cracked and they split. Is there anyone here who wants a giant omelet? I roared like a lion and I scratched with my feet, but I needed lots of salt to stomach the raw meat. Well, I had finally decided to sneak in with the apes. I walked on my knuckles and my cheeks stuffed with grapes. I made ape-like sounds and I scratched and I sniffed. When I caught Noah's eye, he looked kind of miffed. He pulled me aside and he asked me my name, and I said, ooh, ooh, and grunted, but he was on to my game. He looked in my eyes and he squinted his thumb. He raised up his hand and he stuck out his thumb. He sniffed at the air and he cracked a small grin. He said, rain's coming soon. Come on, let's get in. I let out a sigh and I spit out my grapes. He laughed and he said, you're a bit short for an ape. And I just happened to have room out on the high seas for 2 of every animal and 1 child who believes. I like that version of the story because you can imagine what it might be like if you saw Noah building the boat. Would you want to go along? Why do you think the little boy wanted to go with Noah? I wonder. Do you think you would want to go with Noah? Everyone else thought, it's not going to rain. What do you think? Would you have believed his story? Would you have wanted to go? Even if people laughed at you and thought you were a little silly too? It took a lot of courage for Noah to build the ark and for the little boy to say that he wanted to go too. And he tried a lot of things to get to go on that big boat. But God gives us the strength to be brave and do what's right, to stand up for what we believe. And God also gives us the instructions and asks for our obedience when we listen to God. Today we're going to talk about the instructions that God gave to Noah and see what they were really like. Okay, so if we look up in the Bible in the book of Genesis, the story of Noah starts in chapter 6 and it goes through most of chapter 9. So you guys can look it up with your moms and dads at home and read it together. It's pretty lengthy, has a lot of description. And what it says here in chapter 6, it gives instructions for how Noah should build this boat. And I wanted to do a little bit of ark math with you, okay? So I got my whiteboard out here. So it says that Noah is to make the ark 300 cubits. And you say, what is a cubit? Okay, so 300 cubits long and 50 cubits wide and 30 cubits high, okay? Then he's supposed to put a roof on the ark and finish it to a cubit above, okay? All these instructions. Now, the first part is, what is a cubit? Okay, let me see if I can get this back so you can see it. All right. And let's see if we can figure out what a cubit is, okay? A cubit is the length of your arm from elbow to fingertip, okay? Did you see that? So I've put my arm on the edge of the table here at the elbow, and it's to my longest fingertip right here. That's a cubit. Now, you can imagine that's going to be a different measurement for everybody, right? So a cubit is actually an estimation, all right? But if I measure my arm, let's see if I can show you here. If I measure my arm from elbow at the edge of the table to the fingertip, what does it look like? My cubit would be about 15 inches, between 14 and 15 inches, okay? Here's what I want you to do. I want you to lay your arms on the table, everyone in your family, and measure each of your elbows to fingertips to see how long your cubits would be. Then average them all together and see. Typically, I want to know what yours is. You can email me and tell me what your family cubit would be. Typically, we estimate that a cubit is about 18 inches. Okay? So 18 inches equals a cubit. That means 36 inches equals 1 yard, right? Which equals 3 feet, which equals, how many times does 18 go into 36? 2. 2 cubits. Okay? You got that? We're doing Bible math here. So this yardstick that I have, that's 36 inches, is about 2 cubits. So at that, if we think of that, how much is 300 cubits? What do you think? Okay, so back to our Bible math. So if we have 300 cubits, and we know that 1 yard equals 2 cubits, if we divide 300 by 2, we get 150 yards. Okay, so 300 cubits equals 150 yards, which equals how many feet? We multiply 150 by 3 and we get 450 feet, which if you read most of our modern translations of the Bible, they tell us that Noah's Ark was supposed to be 450 feet long, or 150 yards. Now, you can do the math at home and figure out how tall it was supposed to be and how wide it was supposed to be and how tall it was supposed to be. Let me write that here. This is 50 cubits wide and 30 cubits high. So if you do Bible math, can you figure out how wide and how high the ark would be in feet? work on the problem, and then when you think you've got it, you can look it up in Genesis chapter 6 to see if you're about right, because that's where it's translated. In most versions, it'll be translated into feet, okay? See what you can find. All right. Okay, so I'm going outside here, and we're going to walk and see if we can estimate how big the ark was. Remember I said it was about 150 yards? Well, it occurred to me this week that I think each square in the sidewalk is about a yard. So we're going to go measure and see. So I'm walking out to the sidewalk right now, and I have my yardstick, and we're going to measure, and then I'm going to have an assignment for you to do with your family to see how the ark might fit in your neighborhood. Are you excited? I am too. Okay, so here we go. I'm going to flip this around. I'm here at the sidewalk. Oops. And okay, so I've put the yardstick down on the sidewalk square. Can you see where the cracks are? And it's a little over a yard. Pretty close for estimating's sake. So you can take a yardstick out to your sidewalk and see how big your squares are. And then what I want you to do is count how many squares, 150, how big that would be, okay? So what you probably want to do is put a marker or a cone or a something at one end of your street, all right? And so you can see it from far away, and then count how many squares all the way up to 150 and see how far it goes. And then see, that's how long the ark would be. How many houses is that on your street that would fit into that ark? I want to know. You're going to have to let me know, okay? All right, that's your assignment with your mom and dad, brothers and sisters. Go outside and count 150 sidewalk squares to see how big the ark was. Well, that was fun. Now I'm back in the classroom, and I have a couple of games for you to try with your family, okay? These are going to get you up and moving. You can either do them inside or outside. It's up to you. So what you'll need is either some masking tape if you're inside, or a piece of chalk if you're outside. Okay, to play this first game, you're going to make an arc shape on the floor, either with masking tape or chalk if you're outside. And you can make it like a sideways picture of what we visualize that the ark looked like, kind of like this, a boat with a roof. Or you could make it like kind of top down, the shape of a boat if you were looking from the sky down onto it, okay? It's up to you. You get to make your boat how you wish, all right? And this game is called Jump into the Ark, and you are going to respond to statements by either jumping into the ark or staying in place, all right? So I've included a list of the statements, and your mom and dad and brothers and sisters can come up with some more if you want. And you're going to decide what the faithful response is. So if the faithful response is to, if the statement is a faithful response, meaning it's something that God would want you to do, then you're going to jump into the ark, okay? If it is not a faithful one, then you're going to stay outside the ark, okay? For example, the first one is lose your temper. Is that a faithful response if you're angry? No, it's a natural response, but God usually wants us to try and find a way to keep our temper so that we can handle our relationships a little more kindly. So I'm going to stay outside the ark. Another statement might be, help your brother or sister clean their room. Is that a faithful response? I think so. So I'm going to jump into the ark here. Look, there's my feet in the ark, because that is something that God would want me to do. All right, I'm going to jump back out with your family. Have someone read the statements, and you get to decide whether that's a faithful response and obeys God or not faithful. If it is faithful, you're going to jump into the ark just like Noah and his family. And if it's not faithful, you're going to stay out of the ark. Okay? Well, I hope you had fun with that game. Maybe with your family, you can come up with some extra statements that might be applicable to your situation, like what is the faithful thing to do? What are the things you struggle with? And you can jump into the ark for those, okay? Our next game is one that you can play, again, either inside or outside, but have a little space. This is called 2 by 2, and it's played very similarly to Simon Says, okay? So every, God told Noah to do what to do, and Noah did what God said. So you're gonna listen carefully so that you only do what Noah says, all right? 2 by 2. Now you can play this in partners, and your partner tells you what to do and you do it, or you can play it as a whole family. It's up to you. Whatever you think would be the most fun. Or you can play it both ways. I don't know, we got plenty of time. So, moms and dads come up with things for, and brothers and sisters come up with things for your partner or your family to do, such as clap your hands. Okay, make sure they're clean. Clap your hands, touch your knee, jump up and down, those things. But remember, just like in Simon Says, you're only gonna do it if your partner or the leader says, Noah says, clap your hands, okay? Be sure to say Noah says, and if Noah doesn't say it, don't do it, all right? Remember, Noah listened to God and did what God said, and Noah tried to tell the rest of the people what God said. They didn't always listen, but maybe they should have. All right, so those are all our activities for this week. I hope that you have learned a little bit more about Noah and the ark and thought a little bit about what it means to listen to God and do what God says. I hope that you've had some fun with your family and gotten up and moved around a little bit. Here's what I want to know. I want to know, first of all, how big that ark was. What did you think? Did you measure it out on your sidewalk? How big was it? How many houses on your street would fit into the ark? You can email me or message me and let me know, okay? I'll see you next week. Have a great week. Stay safe. Stay busy somehow. And be kind and gentle with one another. I love you lots. Bye-bye.